Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we're back to working over here on our Thompson surface grinder, and today what I want to get started on is scraping in the ways on this machine so that we can go ahead and get it put back together and back into use. Now, previously, it's actually been a couple of months ago now, I believe, we came in and did an inspection on the ways using my Kingway tool, at least on these ways. I haven't really inspected the ways on the bottom of the table yet. I'm probably just going to scrape them because I've already made the decision we're going to scrape this. But the good news is that these ways down here were in excellent condition. Arguably, maybe not even need scraping, but since I've got the machine apart, it just kind of makes sense to just go ahead and touch this thing up and do a little bit of work to it. A lot of you guys commented like, hey, if it was me, I would just leave it alone. I'm not going to mess with it. But I guess my perspective on that is that we've got it apart. I know how to scrape. I'm not going to make it any worse than what it is already. We're only going to make it better. So that is kind of my game plan. We're going to go in here. And if nothing else too, by just putting, even if I didn't do anything else, we just come in here and just blindly put a crosshatch scraping pattern on these ways, we're going to improve the performance of this machine, because right now these are pretty much ground ways. You got a lot of contact between those two surfaces, a lot of friction going on. One of the things that we do in scraping is that we have little high points and low points in there. It's not a perfectly flat surface like you get from a surface grinder. The high points are all on a flat plane, but you've got some lower spots in there, and that allows for oil to get down in there, and you get better surface. You don't get as much adhesion between your two surfaces when you do that, because you got room for that oil in there, and you actually have smaller contact area between the two surfaces, which may on the surface sound like that may not be what you want, but that is what you want. You want to have a smaller number of points of contact between those two surfaces where you have less friction. It will actually wear slower than if you have a lot of surface contact, because you've got a lot more friction going on. So that's what the game plan is here today. I'm going to zoom in here and kind of show you what we're going to be working on, but we're going to go ahead and work on getting the ways here ready to start mating it with the table. We'll probably use the table as our master, but I want to go ahead and at least on this front way, get it flat to the straight edge before we get started. The back way, the V way in there, just because of I don't really have anything I can get in there to properly measure it. We're going to be using the table as the master on that. We'll actually use a straight edge on the table to get it as flat and as good as we can, and then we'll come in here and use that to spot up and scrape in the back surface. Let's get started. So these are the surfaces we're going to be starting out on, and again, these are the flat ways. This is a flat way. We have a V-way in the back. Now the good news is that I can easily get a long straight edge in on this surface here and get that scraped in nice and flat using my straight edge as a reference surface. The bad news is that I got a V-way back here in the back, and I really don't have anything that I can get in there with to do this one because of the way this thing's oriented. You say, well, you can come in here and lay your straight edge in at a 45-degree angle. The problem is that my straight edge is wider than this piece back here. There's a little guard piece that doesn't allow that straight edge to fit in there at the angle. And when I flip it the other way, because of the column and everything behind it, there's just not room for that to lay over far enough. It's going to hit this piece back here and hit the column. It won't let me get into the right angle. I actually have a straight edge that has a V in it. It's not the full length, but again, it's too wide, and because of this piece back here in the back, I think that's just a splash guard to keep the coolant from splashing over into the ways. But because of that, it just won't allow me to get it down in there. It just won't fit. But again, we can use the actual table as our master to use this to scrape in, and we'll show you that process once we get to that. It may not be in this video, probably won't be in this video, but we'll be doing that upcoming. Game plan here, we're going to be working on this front way. Before I do anything else, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with my scraper, my power scraper, and we're going to put just blindly apply a crosshatch pattern on here. I'll go in one direction, then I'll come back at 45 degrees to it, or 90 degrees to it, I guess, and we'll do that crosshatch pattern all the way down this thing. And then we'll bring our straight edge over here and start scraping it in. Why do I do the crosshatch pattern first blindly? Well, again, you get those highs and lows. Right now with this very flat surface on here, ground surface, or it's hard to get a good print from your straight edge when you blew it up. So we'll come in here and put a crosshatch pattern on it first and get going. And let's just go ahead and do that. I got my power scraper here. This is a Bix power scraper, and we're just going to come through here and put a little crosshatch pattern on it. This is a rather awkward piece to work on just because of all the being able to get down in here. I really can't get down any closer here because you see I'm actually hitting this raised part. So I'm going to have to come back the other direction, kind of like this, to finish it out. But let me go ahead and go all the way down this, and we'll get those scrape marks in there. I'm using a fairly wide blade right now that gives me a nice flat, wide straight mark. As we get closer to the finish, we'll go to a narrower blade. Now to finish this, I'm going to have to come in on the back side and kind of go up against that back edge. Don't like doing it this way, but it's just really not a good way around it. I have to be a little bit of a contortionist do this job because the column is just going to be in my way. But we'll get it done. Now I'm coming in from the other direction, doing 90 degrees to it. And again, I'm going to kind of have to do this in 2 passes because I can't get all the way up against that. But we're going to go ahead and do this and go down it and get that crosshatch pattern in it. All right, I got a nice crosshatch pattern in there, and next thing I'm going to do is just kind of take a brush and get all the chips out. Now I took a little rag. There's a drain. This is actually an oil drain that goes down into my tank, and I'm going to clean all that out again before we put any fresh oil in here. But I did put a little stopper in that hole to try to keep as much of that stuff captured in these little reservoirs at the end, and then I'll take a shop vac and clean them out good before we pull those plugs out. We got that. I'm going to now take a stone and just stone these real good. Let's see, got my precision ground flat stones, and stoning these, all I'm doing is I'm just knocking the burrs off. You can really feel it when you run that stone over. It doesn't take much, but just kind of knocks any burrs that are in there off, so you have a nice plane across the top that we're measuring on with a straight edge. Oh, that feels good. All right, we're going to blue up the straight edge and see what she looks like. This is the straight edge that we're going to be using to check the surface with. I will tell you that this is a 5-foot straight edge made by Challenge, and I have previously checked it against my surface plate, and it is in calibration, so we're good to go there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm taking and just rolling some bluing on this. This is Canode Blue. This is a spotting ink, water-soluble ink. And I basically am just putting a thin layer of this on this straight edge. And what I'll do is I will take this over to the flat way over there, and we will rub it back and forth. And the high points on this will transfer to the high points onto my bed, and that will tell me where my high points are, and then I can start scraping it in until I get a good pattern. Straight edge is a little bit heavy, but I can manage to manhandle it. And we'll just come in here and run this back and forth. And again, the blue should transfer from the straight edge to the ways. And we can see what's high, we can see what's low, and we can see where we need to scrape to get everything flat. All right. Okay, I don't know how well you can see this in the camera, but I can see it pretty well down here. But basically what I'm seeing is we're printing kind of heavy down here on this end. And then from the other end all the way down, I've got bluing pretty much all the way down, but it seems to be a little bit heavier on this inside, and this kind of outside over here is a little bit lower. So what that's telling me is I need to kind of scrape this down a little bit to get a little bit more contact over here. But the good news is we do have coverage from end to end, which kind of goes along with what we saw previously in our measurements. The high points on the ends, like I said, a little bit higher on this end and this end. And that makes sense because this table is moving back and forth. And just because of the length of the table versus the length of the bed, you're going to get more wear in the center section because you're going to have more contact in that area. So it kind of makes sense of what we're seeing. But again, the good news is we do have contact from end to end. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in here and just start scraping on these areas where there's bluing and try to avoid the areas where there's not. And I think just to kind of make it a little bit easier on myself, I am going to kind of draw out, because there's, I kind of got an area, this whole area and down here I want to avoid. The rest of this, there's a little bit of a hole right there. I'm going to get a different mark, a Sharpie, but I'm going to kind of mark the areas I want to stay out of, and then we'll just come in here and blue up those other areas. All right, here we go. All right, pass 2 got done here, and it'll be rinse and repeat. First I need to clean that up. I'm just going to take a little Windex here. We're going to get all that old bluing off. Take our flat stone and deburr it. And we'll get the straight edge blued up again and re-blue it. All right, let's rub it in and see what it looks like. And a quick look is very similar to the previous one. We've still got a little bit of a low spot along this back edge. However, I can tell it's moving in a little bit. The little hole we had up here is gone, so we got that worked out. But I got good coverage, again, from end to end, and I am starting to come in a little bit, but I do need to basically do what we just did again and hit my blue spots. And I don't think it's going to take many passes, and we're going to be in good shape. So I'm going to, again, kind of mark out the area that I want to kind of stay out of. Let's see here. And it's a smaller area than last time, so we're bringing it down, bringing that surface down a little bit. I'm going to guess it's going to take 2 or 3 more passes to get that evened up, but we are heading in the right direction. All right, I'll get in here and do another round of scraping. All right, another round. I guess that was my 3rd pass on the scraper. Get any of that blue out of there so we can start fresh with another round here. So with our flat stone. And we'll bring the straight edge in again. I have coverage from one end to the other. We picked up a lot of our area down in here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a pass, and instead of, on the previous ones, I've been kind of hitting all of the areas that were blue kind of evenly, trying to drop them down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of come in here and really just kind of pick out these blue spots and avoid the low spots and see if I can pick up my coverage a little bit, although I'm getting good coverage right now. We're going to try to prove it just a little bit. I'm going to go to a smaller, a bigger radius on my tip and a shorter stroke, so we're doing a little bit more precision scraping at this point, and see if we can, like I said, improve it. So again, I've got a radius here that's got a more of a curve to it. Instead of being flatter, it's more radius, so I'm making a narrower cut instead of a real wide cut. And I've also shortened my stroke, so I'm not making it as long as a stroke. And we're just going to try to hit the areas that are blue. And then this time I'm not going to go in both directions. I'm only going to go in one direction. And if necessary, when we come back, we'll go back at the 45 or 90 degrees to it. So let's get in here and see what we can do. Again, I'm just trying to hit those areas that are blue. And you can see my scrape marks are much smaller. If there's no blue there, I'm staying away from it. I'm still making straight lines. When you're scraping, you want to make individual straight marks. You don't want to just put it in one place and dig a hole. So you always want that cutter to be moving. But I'm trying to just target the areas where I have blue. So I'm trying to lower those areas down and kind of fill in the areas around it where there is no blue. And that should theoretically increase my coverage. Now, when scraping, we're only removing tiny amounts of material. Right now, the depth of these cuts, I'm purposely kind of doing this a little on the light side. I'm probably 1 to 2 10,000ths of an inch. So, a fraction of a thousandth. I'm not digging deep holes, and we're not having to remove a lot of material here. We're going for precision at this point. We're going to continue on and hit this whole area. I'm probably going to come back 90 degrees to it, just because, so I have a crosshatch, but we'll take a look at that after we blew it up this next time. Guys, I did go back and scrape it 90 degrees to that last one. I didn't show the bluing up and the doing of that, but I'm glad that I did because that really helped pick this thing up. And I am extremely satisfied with this. This looks absolutely wonderful. I've got very good coverage from end to end, lots of blue spots, lots of low spots. So, you know, we should have that surface that we're looking for from scraping, where you have those individual high points with the little valleys around them the oil can get into. And this looks great. Like I said, I'm very happy with it. Got good coverage from end to end. No really areas in here at all where there's any voids or anything like that. And I think, if I remember right, I think it took a total of 6 passes. So I did 3 kind of roughing passes where I was just really bringing down the high spots and just really kind of bringing them down. And then I did, maybe it was 7 passes. I did 3 roughing and then I did 2 passes. And the 3 roughing passes were in both directions. And the next 2 passes were just in one direction and then the other direction. Just kind of concentrating on the blue areas. And then I did 2 more passes again with the fine tip and the shorter stroke, just concentrating on those blue areas and really trying to pick up the coverage, which we succeeded in very good. So anyway, we got this knocked out. First one is done. Up next, probably just going to put a rough pattern on the V's back here. I'm not going to be able to actually blue those up like these. We're going to have to use the table, but I do want to go ahead and just put a roughing pass on those. Probably not going to show that. And then I will start working on getting the bottom of the table scraped into the straight edge. Once we get the bottom of the table scraped into the straight edge, we'll bring the table over here and actually scrape everything into the table. We'll be using the table as our master at that point in time. So there you go. There's my process. And like I said, real happy with that. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit on, kind of give you a closer look at what that looks like. Just kind of zooming in here where you can see this a little bit better. And I'm going to try to roll you down just a little bit here. You can kind of see the coverage. I'm not going to be able to take you the whole way because my rig's going to run into the machine. But you can see we've got that good coverage, individual points of contact, going all the way down this piece. And there we are at the end of the table. So very happy with how it looks. Just take a quick peek here and show you that I went ahead and scraped the V-ways here. This is just blind scraping. Again, nothing to go against. I was just putting a pattern on here. I did this on both sides and got a nice pattern in there. We will be coming back and doing more scraping on this once we get the table scraped in. And then again, we will use the table as the master. We'll use it just like we did the straight edge on the front way and use that. And we'll also get the front way and on the table and the front way on the machine scraped in together as well. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of show you what we had done. I didn't show any of the actual scraping here. Same process as before. This was just a one pass in one direction, one pass in the other direction. So just really 2 passes across there, making a crosshatch. And like I said, that's just our starting point. And we'll be coming back to that down the road. Well, there we go. That's going to pretty much be a wrap on today's work. We've got the ways here, scraped in on one side with the straight edge, scraped in on the other, just rough scraping. Next step, again, get the table out, scrape it in, and then we'll start matching everything up. But this is a kind of stopping point now, and it's going to be a little bit of time before I think I can get back on here and get back onto this project. So we're going to take a break here, stop here, and we'll bring you back on this a little bit later on and hopefully get this thing scraped in pretty soon. There you go, guys. With that, that's a wrap. As always, thanks for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up and comments are always greatly appreciated. Really helps out with the algorithms over on YouTube. Big, huge thank you out there to the people who subscribe to my channel, as well as those who support the channel financially through PayPal and Patreon, etc. It really enables me to take the time to be able to shoot these videos and edit the videos and bring them to you. It takes an awful lot of time just to do the production work on this stuff. And that's time that I could be out in the shop working, but I want to share with you guys what we're doing. So with that, we'll catch you on the next video again. Thanks for watching.